On April 23, 2026, President Donald Trump signed an order directing the United States Navy to shoot and kill any Iranian vessel caught laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. The order was not a warning. It was a response to something the Pentagon has been tracking for months. Hundreds of fast attack boats, armed drones, and sea mines, pre-positioned inside hidden sea caves on a small island at the mouth of the world's most critical oil chokepoint. The Iranians call it the B Fleet, and it was engineered for one purpose: to swarm and overwhelm the most powerful navy on Earth. Iran has been solving the same problem for 40 years. How do you fight the most powerful navy on Earth when you cannot match it ship for ship? The U.S. Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. Iran operates 0. The U.S. fields Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers carrying over 90 Tomahawk and SM-2 missiles each. Iran's largest surface combatants are frigates built in the 1970s, technology already aging when the Islamic Republic was founded. In a conventional naval engagement, Iran loses every time. No scenario changes that outcome. So, beginning in the 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq War and the Tanker War, IRGC naval commanders began studying a different question. Not how to match American firepower, but how to overwhelm it. The answer they developed is built on a single principle: saturation. No defensive system, regardless of sophistication, can engage an unlimited number of simultaneous threats. Every CIWS has a rate of fire. Every CRAM battery has a magazine. Every radar has a processing limit. Attack with enough threats at once, from enough directions simultaneously, and some will get through. Over 4 decades, the IRGC Navy built an entire force structure around that calculation. Today, the operational hub of that force is Farvar Island, a small Iranian-controlled island at the eastern approach to the Strait of Hormuz. According to reporting by the national and military intelligence sources cited this week, the island hosts a network of sea caves sheltering hundreds of fast attack craft and drone launch systems, pre-positioned and ready to deploy on short notice. The IRGC's own judiciary chief, Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, publicly declared this week that the B Fleet is positioned and waiting to saturate and destroy American naval defenses. A senior Iranian government official describing an active operational posture in a public statement. The B Fleet is not a concept. It is a deployed capability sitting at the entrance to a waterway that carries 20% of the world's traded oil. A swarm attack is not a charge. It is a coordinated system with multiple interdependent layers, each designed to degrade a specific American defensive capability before the next layer arrives. The sequence begins before a single boat leaves shore. It starts with intelligence, identifying the position, heading, and defensive configuration of the target vessel. U.S. carrier strike groups are large, relatively predictable in their transit corridors, and continuously tracked by IRGC surveillance assets throughout the Gulf region. When the order is given, the attack unfolds in 3 coordinated waves. The first wave is not boats. It is electronic warfare, jamming the GPS signals and communications frequencies that U.S. vessels depend on for targeting and coordination. The objective is to degrade situational awareness and slow the defensive response cycle before the physical threat appears on radar. Simultaneously, surveillance drones launch to feed real-time targeting data back to IRGC commanders on shore. The second wave is the fast attack craft themselves, launching from multiple points at once, from Farvar Island, from coastal positions along the Iranian shore, from vessels already operating inside the strait. Multiple vectors, different speeds, a targeting prioritization problem that U.S. radar systems must solve sequentially, under electronic degradation, in real time. The third layer is drone coordination. Armed systems operating above the surface swarm, forcing U.S. defensive batteries to split engagement capacity between aerial and surface threats simultaneously. The objective is not to sink a carrier, it is to stop one. A carrier that cannot move is a carrier that cannot project power. And in a 21-mile strait, a stopped carrier becomes the blockage. The U.S. Navy spent $250 million trying to answer that question in a live simulation, and the results were so bad they stopped the exercise and rewrote the rules. That's coming up next. Stay on this operation. The B Fleet is not a single vessel type. It is a layered system where every component is designed to force the U.S. Navy to spend defensive capacity, so that by the time the most dangerous threat arrives, the magazine is thinner and the response window is shorter. The surface layer is built around fast attack craft engineered for the shallow coastal waters, where U.S. destroyers cannot operate effectively. Iran's domestically produced Siraj-1 is capable of sustained speeds exceeding 55 knots. At that speed, from a launch point 10 nautical miles away, it reaches its target in under 11 minutes. Faster than some U.S. defensive systems can cycle through a full multi-vector threat engagement sequence. It carries anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and rocket systems. Small enough to complicate radar discrimination, expendable enough to be deployed in numbers that make individual engagement calculations irrelevant. Supporting it is the Zolfaghar-class missile boat, carrying the Nasr anti-ship missile, a sea-skimming weapon designed to fly below radar coverage and impact at the waterline, where structural damage is most catastrophic. Iran has continuously upgraded the Nasr's targeting systems and deployed this platform in real Gulf operations. The aerial layer adds a different dimension of the same problem. The Shahed 136, combat-proven in Ukraine and now fielded in maritime variants, operates as a loitering munition above the surface swarm. Above them, surveillance drones track the defensive response in real time, feeding updated targeting data back to IRGC commanders as U.S. systems begin to engage, ensuring the next wave hits the gaps the first wave opened. Neither system is individually decisive. Together they force CIWS mounts and CRAM batteries to divide their engagement cycles between surface and sky at the same moment, which is precisely what the Doctrine requires. And then there are the mines. U.S. intelligence, cited by the National this week, estimates that Iran has deployed 20 or more sea mines in the Strait of Hormuz, including GPS-guided variants capable of repositioning after initial deployment. The Pentagon has formally assessed that full mine clearance of the strait could take up to 6 months of continuous mine-sweeping operations. The detail that has most alarmed U.S. naval planners is this. According to reporting by the New York Times, citing U.S. government officials, Iran itself has lost precise track of where several of these mines currently are. A weapon that its own operator can no longer reliably locate is a weapon that no transit vessel can avoid, because no one knows where to look. Trump's order this morning to triple mine-sweeping operations and authorize lethal force against mine-laying vessels is a direct response to exactly that problem. Not to the surface fleet, to an unknown number of objects drifting somewhere in a 21-mile international chokepoint that nobody, on either side, can find. In the summer of 2002, the United States military conducted the most expensive wargame in its history, Millennium Challenge 2002, at a cost of $250 million. The exercise was designed to test American warfighting doctrine against a fictional Middle Eastern adversary with clear operational similarities to Iran. Retired Marine General Paul Van Riper commanded the opposing Red Force. Van Riper employed swarm tactics, fast boats launched simultaneously from multiple vectors, unconventional communication methods to evade electronic intercept, saturation missile salvos timed to overwhelm defensive sequences before they could cycle through the full threat picture. The Blue Force commanders, watching their simulated ships disappear from the radar display one by one, had no effective answer. In the opening phase, Van Riper's forces sank 16 U.S. warships, including the carrier, within the first hours of engagement. The Pentagon halted the exercise. On paper, they restored all 16 sunken warships back to operational status, as if the engagements had never happened. Then they rewrote the rules to prevent Van Riper from using the tactics that had just worked. He refused to continue under those conditions and resigned from the exercise publicly. His conclusion was direct. The simulation had been manipulated to produce a predetermined outcome. The full unmodified results have never been officially released. That was 24 years ago. The U.S. Navy has spent 2 decades trying to solve the problem Van Riper exposed. The core challenge is sequential engagement. Every defensive system, no matter how fast, processes threats one at a time. The Phalanx fires 40,500 rounds per minute. The CRAM intercepts aerial threats. The SM-6 extends the defensive envelope outward to its maximum range. Individually, each system is battle-proven and highly effective. Against simultaneous threats arriving from multiple vectors, with an electronic warfare layer already degrading the targeting picture, and a drone swarm splitting engagement cycles between surface and sky, the sequence breaks down before the magazine runs out. Picture a single operator inside a destroyer's combat information center, watching a radar screen fill with contacts from 3 different directions at once. Surface threats at 11 minutes out, aerial threats at 4, electronic interference compressing the entire engagement timeline. Every decision he makes removes one threat from the board and leaves the others one step closer. That is the environment the B Fleet is specifically designed to create. The most credible long-term answer to this problem is directed energy, laser systems capable of engaging small boat threats at the speed of light with effectively unlimited magazine depth. The U.S. Navy has been actively testing these systems, and they represent a genuine doctrinal shift. But they are not yet deployed at operational scale inside the strait. The most credible short-term answer operates on a simple principle: extend the engagement envelope far enough outward that fast attack craft never reach the point where the math breaks down. The MH-60R Seahawk, armed, fast, and capable of operating in the shallow coastal waters where destroyers cannot follow, is currently the primary tool for that mission. 3 days ago, one of those crews boarded the MV Tuska. In a swarm scenario, those same crews would be the first line of engagement against the B Fleet before it closes to weapons range. Iran's conventional military has been systematically dismantled since February 28th. What remains is the B Fleet, and it was built specifically for this moment. Which U.S. defensive system do you think closes the gap against a full swarm deployment in Hormuz? Drop your answer in the comments. And tell us what analysis you want next on Operation Fury. Today, the Strait of Hormuz has 2 simultaneous blockades, one American, one Iranian, enforced on the same 21 miles of water at the same time. The U.S. Navy has turned back 31 Iranian-linked vessels since the blockade took effect on April 13th. 3 days ago, the USS Spruance fired on and seized the MV Tuska in the Gulf of Oman after it attempted to breach the blockade line. Minesweepers are operating under an order tripled in scope this morning. Over 10,000 U.S. personnel and more than a dozen warships are enforcing that perimeter right now. The IRGC responded by seizing the MSC Francesca and the Epaminondas on April 22nd, cargo ships it had previously cleared for transit, and firing on a third with gunfire and rocket-propelled grenades. Iranian gunboats have engaged Indian-flagged merchant vessels inside the strait without warning. The IRGC is publicly declaring the waterway closed and demanding tolls exceeding $1 million per transit from vessels it selectively permits through. No tankers crossed the strait yesterday. Brent crude is above $100 per barrel. A single transit now costs over $1 million in war risk insurance alone. Neither side controls the strait completely. Neither side is willing to be the one that blinks. The B fleet has not yet been deployed in a full swarm engagement. And Tehran knows something the US Navy also knows. A weapon deployed is a weapon that can be destroyed. As long as those boats stay inside the sea caves of Farvar Island, Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz without firing a single shot. Oil stays above $100 per barrel. Global shipping stays paralyzed. American carriers stay in defensive posture. Iran retains the only economic leverage it has left over a conflict it is losing on every other front. The moment the B fleet deploys and is destroyed, Iran loses that leverage permanently, which means the most dangerous scenario is not the one where Iran uses it. It is the one where Iran decides it has nothing left to lose. The ceasefire is open-ended on paper and deteriorating in every operational sense. Lethal force has been authorized against mine-laying vessels as of this morning. The IRGC has formally declared that any U.S. military vessel approaching the strait constitutes a ceasefire violation, warranting a severe response. The order that releases the B fleet depends entirely on what happens in the next 72 hours. Tonight, that calculation is still in motion. The B fleet did not need to fire a single shot to reshape this conflict. Its existence alone closed the Strait of Hormuz, pushed oil above $100 per barrel, paralyzed global shipping, and forced the most powerful navy on Earth into a defensive posture in a 21-mile channel. That is the doctrine working exactly as designed. The question is no longer whether the B fleet is capable of threatening U.S. naval dominance in Hormuz. The question is whether the next 72 hours give Iran a reason to use it. What a full deployment would actually look like, the tactical sequence, the defensive response, the moment the math either holds or breaks. That is the next episode. Subscribe to Operation Fury and hit the bell. When the ceasefire collapses and the B fleet deploys against the carrier strike group, you need to be there. See you on the next operation.